my name is Jacopo Nardiello. Today, I'm going to talk about the 3 laws of scalable engineering. The title, for those of you who love Asimov as I do, I hope it does resonate. And with this whole AI craze, it just made sense. Why not? Before we start, just again, about me. So very quickly, I'm part of the Linux Foundation Advisory Board. I've been a CNCF ambassador, Cloud Native Computing Foundation ambassador since 2018. And today, I'm the lead for infra transformation at ING. Before we start, I actually wanted to ask you a question. Who was here yesterday for our keynote from Daniele, from our CTO? That's good. So you all have context. Daniele has been talking about the why, right? So he has been introducing all the complexities of running a large organization, which is relying on tech as one of the big pillars for being in business. And indeed, ING has been one of the first adopters, I would say, worldwide of cloud-native technologies. What does that mean? It means that we have been running cloud-native infrastructure and cloud-native workloads for the past 10 years or so. And this is where I want to get started with the conversation, right? Because as you start to get a powerful technological stack, you soon understand that the organization has to follow. And so the real challenge is not just technical, but it is also how you actually effectively adopt, something like Kubernetes and the whole CNCF ecosystem within a large organization. How do you build a tech org and a tech engineering stack that actually scales together with, that scales and grows together with the rest of the organization? And so we are talking about the 3 key things. What are the mechanisms? Right? What are the processes that you actually embed? What's the operating model? Whatever that means. Meaning that, how the different people do interact between each other, how are the products defined, and so on. And then how do you embed delivery discipline within the organization so that you don't have to rely just on individuals, but you make it part of the culture. And so, before actually diving into the more interesting part, I just want to start with a statement. In my opinion, writing code was never the problem. It was never the challenge. Okay, large organizations have been shipping code since 40 years, and that's not where the challenge started. That's not where that's not the reason why organizations start to slow down. So what is indeed the challenge? I think that it's at 2 levels, right? So the first one is, of course, code, the code itself, which, for those of you who have been enough in the industry, you know that code is a liability, it's not an asset. The more code you have, the more code you need to maintain. And then you also have on top of it, organizational complexity, which compounds in a negative way. And so scaling a tech organization and scaling the engineering, it's all about managing, this layering of technological depth and organizational depth. So how do you manage that effectively? And that's how, we started defining the pillars, which are today the 3 foundational things that are powering ING as a bank. And trust me, so I'm a new hire in ING. I started 3 months ago, but it has been like a super intense 3 months. Why? Because I really found these 3 things embedded everywhere. And so these are indeed, I know we are large, we are a complex organization and so on, but in the end, it all boils down to these 3 laws. So, and these are the 3 things that are allowing today ING to actually scale, both from a business and from an organizational point of view. We are talking about standardization across products and platforms, right? So what does it mean? It's not, products for us are not just the consumer products, so what you go in a branch and buy. We are talking also about technological products, within the organization. How a developer consume, deploy code to production. How our platform engineering teams consume the underlying data centers, and so on. These are all products for us. And then the second law, standardized contracts leveraging open source, right? We talk about open source, everyone think about availability of the source code. That's not where the power of open source is. It's about the standardized contracts. And then we have building effective golden path and, automated ways to actually ship without sacrificing on security to production. So these have been like foundational pillars, but they are still very abstract. So these are concepts which I think we all agree on. How do we make it real? How do we make it practical? And in order to answer this question, I want to give you like an overview of how we work, because that's important context. So ING has 4 main areas, okay? We have enterprise architecture, we have engineering, we have CISO, and then we have global infra, which is the team I belong to. And these 4 areas, they combined, they actually make our tech scalable platform, right? So it's the interaction of these 4 areas which make the products that we provide internally to actually ship business value. And we ship this business value across the entire world, which makes our context even more complex because it means different regulations, it means different cultures, different consumers, and so on. And these 4 areas need to work together. And in the end, we provide what are, different layer products, which result in the end to what is a commercial product that you can go and buy. So how did we actually start to approach this? In concrete terms, what did we build? And the first piece of this puzzle has been the one engineering system. One engineering system is indeed one of the core concepts of the bank. And what is it? It's basically a distributed effort, so it's the result of the coordination of all the areas that I previously introduced, and it's basically a collection of components that you can use across the entire engineering journey to actually deliver your code to production. Again, in more concrete terms, what does it mean? It means developers using standardized code, standardized code framework, standardized stack, components, reusable components to actually build their applications. It means standardized pipelines that we use to actually bring the code from development to production. It means automated provisioning. That's where my heart belongs. So, how you actually make infrastructure consumable. And for a bank, it gets really complex. Why? Because, there is the whole cloud thing. So how do you use public cloud? That's a thing. But then, as Daniele, I'm sure, introduced, right? There is the whole risk management area. So we maintain our own data centers, and we just cannot afford to be, to depend on what the market says. So we need to be in tight control of everything, of the whole stack. So how do you make your data centers actually consumable in an automated way? And then we have, of course, lifecycle management. How do you maintain the whole thing? From lifecycle management, application lifecycle management, to infrastructure lifecycle management. And that, of course, then how you manage all the deployments, all the rollouts, and with all the best practices that you can imagine, think about canary deployments, blue, green, whatever, we use it all. How do you keep that in control? Sorry, one important thing, security and architecture. This is actually part of the entire journey. So our security and architecture teams, they are embedded into the engineering and infrastructure. So we have security and architecture part of the whole journey at all steps. More in practice. what does it mean? What do we have? How does it look like? We have the very first step. So we have, of course, our developer teams, right? We are talking about tens of thousands of people which develop code. And how do they actually start to consume both the application and the infrastructure? And the first step is through an IDP. An IDP is an internal developer platform. In our case, it's based on Backstage. And it's the place where you can actually start to consume all the pieces that you actually need to bring your code live. And after that, of course, we have the whole pipelines. So pipelines for us are, in our case, they're based on Azure DevOps, but it's just a technological choice. There are other technologies available. Within, what is more important is that within our pipelines, for us, they are a governance tool, right? So it's where we actually embed the rules and the the guardrails, right? To make sure that what we are doing is compliant, is safe, it respects all the code quality requirements and so on. And up until, the pipelines, that's where the one engineering system exists. Then we have, again, the part that I love the most, which is how you bring it live. And that's where the whole infra team has been building a cloud-native platform. In our case, the existing platform is called ICHP, which is the ING container hosting platform. We are iterating on it, and we are building the next generation of it, which is called Nova. And this whole private cloud is abstracted away by, of course, APIs, right? That they are deeply integrated with our pipelines and that manage in an automatic way through a different set of products, going from namespace as a service to cluster as a service and so on. They're deeply embedded with the pipelines. And of course, then you have the biggest challenge of all. Once you provision the infrastructure, that's the easy part, actually. How do you maintain it? How do you make it run? How do you handle the day-to-day operations? The beauty of all this, and this is not just marketing, it is true, is that the foundation of every component and every step that you see is open source. So all the pieces that I've been describing at a high level, they are actually based on open source projects. Which open source projects? Well, I just mentioned Kubernetes. That's where I am from. That's my community, let's say. So that's an important part for me. But Kubernetes is part of the bigger ecosystem called Cloud Native Computing Foundation. I'm sure that many of you, most of you, I hope, have seen the whole CNCF landscape, which is very complex, very big, but also very powerful. And it actually gives you all the building blocks to build your own cloud and cloud platform and so on. We have one of the projects that I mentioned, Lion UI. It's one of our open source projects. So it's an ING maintained project that you can go and check out. And this is essentially how we build, pack, and ship our applications to prod. What about, I didn't want to start a day without talking a little bit about AI. So what about AI? Agentic AI for us, it's becoming, of course, super important. And I know there is a lot of buzzwordiness around it, but the reality is that I think we can all agree that this is really an important and new cornerstone for every accelerating company. And we are leveraging it in three areas. The first one is, I like the term created by Salvatore Sanfilippo, the creator of Redis, for those of you who knows him, automatic programming. So basically the whole agentic thing, Claude Code, Copilot, or you name it, there are so many on the market right now, but how we basically amplify our engineering power. And then we have live documentation and automated day-to operations. That's another big part for us, right? The biggest cost for a bank is to keep the systems running. And shipping new stuff, that's the fun part, but having everything working properly, that's the biggest challenge. And in that area, we can really make use, agentic AI, it's really a big enabler, both when it comes to living documentation and when it comes to day-to operations. So that was like a big overview. Of course, in 15 minutes, there is a lot of content there. If you want to learn more, I will be around. Just come, ping me. I will be at the ING booth. And I invite you to do two things. The first one is to actually check out our ING GitHub page. You will find a lot of really cool projects. And I think that's a great starting point to get close to as an engineer to ING. The other thing, of course, is to visit us at the booth, stop my colleagues, and visit our careers page. You can find me, of course, also on LinkedIn, X, not Twitter anymore. If you want, just reach out to me. One last thing, I'm over time, sorry, but this is really important, and I wanted to catch this as an opportunity. The foundation, regardless you like it or not, the foundation of everything is open source. I'm 100% sure that all your systems are running on top of that small library, I don't know, let's call it SSH or whatever, right? Which is, so open source is powering the whole ecosystem. And when it comes to, having critical systems running on top of open source, contributing is strategy. So please ask and make sure that your organization contributes back to open source, because that's where the magic starts. And that's it. Thank you.